Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Just keeping an eye, I know that Pam is presenting today, and I know she's doing back-to-back webinars. So I'm going to start, and we'll see where we get to where she shows up. So this is our first webinar in our 2023-2024 Radiation Safety and Wellness Webinar series, the C-NRPP test of consumer-grade electronic radon monitors. Today, we'll be speaking with Pam Workington, Executive Director of the Canadian National Radon Proficiency Program, or C-NRPP, and the Canadian Association of Radon Scientists and Technologists, or CARST, regarding the results of the C-NRPP's test of consumer-grade electronic radon monitors released last month. Brian Bjorndal, Director of the Fergal Nolan National Laboratories in Saskatoon, will speak about our certified radon chamber where the testing was performed. Kelly Bush, Manager of Health Canada's National Radon Education Awareness Program, and colleagues will join during the Q&A to answer questions regarding radon work being done at Health Canada. The final 20 minutes of today's webinar will be a movement break led by Xiaoming Wang of Jihong Tai Chi and Qigong in Richmond Hill, Ontario. This school is part of the Jihong Tai Chi College, which was founded in 1988. It is a large organization with campuses located primarily in Canada, China, and a few other locations. The schools are all dedicated to teaching the art of Tai Chi with decades worth of accumulated experience and research to define and design a modern advanced set of teaching methods. Let's take a moment to go over the functionality of the Zoom meeting. We ask that during the presentation portion that the audio and video be from the presenter only. We have found that although you can access the audio through the computer or telephone, the quality of sound tends to be better when listening from a computer. Please use the chat feature for any discussions and post questions arriving from the content in the Q&A. This will help us find your questions for the allotted Q&A portion while allowing people to have a conversation in the chat. As the webinar is only 40 minutes in length and is immediately followed by our wellness session, time may not permit for us to answer all of them during the webinar. The answers will be posted on our website, along with a link to the video recording and a copy of the slides. This can be found under Education Webinars. I will be sending a confirmation of attendance email after the webinar that will include a link to the page with that communication. I will also include the topics covered and the length of time spent in the webinar, as some people have requested this to send to their professional association. Lastly, I have automatic closed captioning enabled in the slide presentation. If they're being blocked by your Zoom controls, you should be able to select a different way to view the webinar in Zoom, which makes them easier to see. We are pleased today to have an opportunity to hear from Pam Workington about the work the C-NRPP does, highlighting their testing of consumer-grade radon monitors. After a brief explanation of radon and its associated health effects, I will turn things over to Pam to talk about the C-NRPP and the work they do. She will talk about their recent radon reduction sweepstakes report and their ongoing testing of consumer-grade electronic radon devices. Brian Bjorndal will give a tour of the radon chamber used to perform the tests. Pam will go through the results of the study from its inception till now, and the results of the fourth set of tests has just been released in October. We will then have a Q&A with Pam, Brian, and representatives from Health Canada. This is a brief overview for those not familiar with radon and its health effects, but for more detailed information, we ask you to see our previous webinars, Understanding Radiation, Radon, and Health Effects of Exposure to Radiation. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas. While there are 3 naturally occurring isotopes of radon, the most concerning is radon-222, as it has the longest half-life of 3.8 days. It is part of the uranium-238 decay series, and uranium-238 is commonly found in the crust of the Earth. When it decays, a radon atom gives off an alpha particle, which is basically a fast-moving nucleus of a helium atom. Alpha particles are very damaging to living tissue and a known carcinogen. Because radon is one of the noble gases, it can enter buildings where they are in contact with the ground, and you can breathe it in and out. When it decays, it has several short-lived radioactive progeny, which are solids and can settle in the lungs, where they will emit their radiation. When there is radon around, these progeny will be there as well. Exposure to high levels of radon gas, and therefore its progeny, is the second leading cause of lung cancer and the primary cause of lung cancer in non-smokers. According to the Canadian Cancer Statistics 2023, published by the Canadian Cancer Statistics Advisory Committee in collaboration with the Canadian Cancer Society, Statistics Canada, and the Public Health Agency of Canada this month, lung cancer continues to be the leading cause of cancer for Canadians. 1 in 14 Canadians are expected to be diagnosed with lung cancer in their lifetimes. According to the Canadian Cancer Society, the 5-year net survival rate for lung cancer is 22%, with about 16% of lung cancer deaths in Canada being attributable to exposure to high levels of radon gas. It is important that people know about radon, how to test for it, and what to do if there are high levels in buildings where they spend a lot of time. To support these efforts, today we're going to talk with Pam Workington, Executive Director of both CARST and the C-NRPP, about consumer-grade electronic radon monitors and how they fit into the larger picture of radon testing. Brian Bjorndal will give a virtual tour of the radon chamber during her presentation. So I'm just seeing if Pam has arrived. Just one second.
Yeah, I'm here.
You're there. I have to make you I'll make you co-host then. And I will, if you just say next slide when you're done talking each slide, then we will take off here and I'll be quiet.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much, Lynn. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the project, and so we'll just jump right in. C-NRPP has done some research on the consumer grade monitor, so it's pleased to be able to present it. I'll get you to go to the next slide, Lynn. All right, so as Lynn has presented a great background of radon, just a couple key things that I thought I would remind everyone about. Radon is a radioactive gas, and really all buildings do have potential of high levels. It is linked to lung cancer, so it's really important for testing to make sure that people are testing their home, and the levels can change. And so because it is a gas and because it moves from different air pressures, we are seeing that the levels can change depending on how the occupant uses that building and that sort of thing. And so certainly these digital monitors are more useful. And as you'll see on the next slide, we have been doing, we have published reports in the past of radon reduction sweepstakes report and published them. And so we will be soon publishing our report from the last 2 years. So that's a bit of a teaser coming out, but I wanted to pull out one slide of it and really share the fact that in the last 2 years, we started asking a question about how are you testing? And so are you using a long-term detector or are you using a digital monitor? And we certainly were hearing that more and more homeowners are using digital monitors. And so we did ask that question, and we are seeing that there is a good percentage of people that are using digital monitors, either because they're purchasing them or they're borrowing them through many of these radon library loan programs. And so as on the next slide, there are different loan programs that are across the country that we know about through either libraries or other organizations also are jumping in on it. We've heard of cancer libraries, we've heard of MLA offices. So there's more than just the libraries are lending them out. And so this is great. This is increasing accessibility to Canadians all across the country to be able to get information and access to radon testing. But it's really important, and this is a primary value that we have with all of our quality control measures when it comes to testing for radon, that when somebody does a measurement, they have a confidence in that measurement. We all know that a false negative test would give somebody a false sense of security. And after we've put all this effort into getting them to test once, if they test and it's low and that's it, they walk away, but really it was a false low and their levels really are high, then that would be a really shame, a public health risk. Okay, Lynn, next slide. And so C-NRPP is our National Radon Proficiency Program. And so we oversee the measurement professionals and the mitigation professionals. We also do have a list of approved devices for professionals. But in 2019, we started to evaluate consumer level devices. And it's been a long process as we've been investigating and putting together some information on it. And next slide, Lynn. All right, so we're going to start with the snapshot from Brian to talk a little bit about the chamber, and then I'll jump into the process.
Thanks, Lyndon. Hello, everybody. So this is our radon chamber. It's been operational at our national laboratories in Saskatoon since 1989. And you can see here, it's a large galvanized steel chamber, 12 cubic meters in size, and it is a walk-in chamber. And at the front, you saw a glove box, which is also used for specialized tests. And as we pan through the chamber lab there, you can see all the associated equipment that are used to create that environment. Here's a shot inside the chamber, and you can see our reference systems are AlphaGuard DF2000 and an Alpha PM. Those are primarily used for measuring radon gas and radon progeny in the chamber. We also have a number of other reference systems in the chamber and other systems, and it's equipped with cameras so we can look inside without going in, and remotely as well. You can see the access door there out front, and you can see off to the very left the glove box, which we use periodically. To the right of that system, you can see some of the control systems we use to create that radon environment in the chamber. The key element is our gas flow through sources. So these are licensable sources with the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. We have a number of lower activity and high activity radon gas sources, and their gas flow through. So we can inject radon into the chamber, and through our control systems, we can set a very large range of radon gas from below 200 becquerels per meter cube to in excess of 500,000. And with the control systems, we can keep it very, very steady or change it quite quickly if we have to. And these control systems are shown here. We have a number of mass flow meters connected to vacuum control systems and a number of different sets of filters, and we can inject fresh air in, we can control the source flow in, and control exhaust air out of the chamber. These are all computer controlled in the lab, and we're able to control those remotely. The chamber runs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The only time it's not running is during service work. You can see at the bottom there some of the vacuum pumps that we use to push air around in and out of the chamber. Looks like it's sticking here. So yeah, and our control system is shown here on the screen. And you can see the radon gas in chart A. We also monitor pressure, humidity, and temperature, and radon progeny levels. Again, we can control some of the input parameters, and this can all be accessed remotely. The lab is equipped with radon monitors to monitor for leakage of the chamber, and we have cameras to kind of remotely log in to see if there's anything funny going on at night or in evenings. Part of our operation includes quite a bit of quality control to ensure that we're measuring the right radon concentrations in the chamber. We regularly intercompare with Bowser-Moorner's National Radon Chamber in the US using scintillation cells, so we can cross-reference our radon levels in our chamber against theirs. And it allows us to ensure consistency and calibration of our facility as well. So these measurement systems are used on a monthly basis to check the radon levels in the chamber against our reference system. So it provides us confidence that our systems are working properly and they're aligning internationally with other chambers. So this chamber can also be used for radon progeny testing, which we don't talk about much in this presentation, but we use aerosol generators to generate an aerosol mist inside the chamber, which makes it conducive for radon progeny sampling. So we do that regularly, mostly for some clients, but also for our own internal dosimetry service. We also have a fume hood in there from a safety standpoint. It's used for other purposes, but it does exhaust air in that lab all the time. So if there ever were a leak, and we have never really had one, the fume hood provides a security measure there. So the chamber's been around for a long time, for almost 35 years. Its primary purpose initially was for testing, instrument development, and quality control for our licensed personnel for dosimetry service, which is shown here with the detectors and the sampling system. So we've been using that since the early 90s in Canada in the uranium mining industry, but the chamber had its roots for this particular system. That's the chamber.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Brian. And it is an important part of our ability to the fact that they then were able to pivot and expand the chamber for radon measurements. So it's an important part of our C-NRPP quality assurance program for anybody that gets spikes done. It's well known and it's an accurate chamber. So we're really proud to have it in Canada. And then it's an important part for this program for us testing our devices. So I'll just walk through a little bit of the methodology. So for our intercomparison project, we chose 4 rounds of intercomparison. 2 of the rounds are equivalent at becquerels, 200 becquerels per meter cubed to test the devices and how they're operating at that Canadian guideline level. One of the rounds is at a normal ambient level that our homes are at, and then one is a high humidity, high temperature to simulate a summertime measurement. And then the other 2 rounds are at an elevated level, so 400 becquerels and 1,000 becquerels. And then on the next slide, you'll see that over the last couple of years, we have been doing this. So I'll dig into the methodology of how then we evaluate them. When we do each round, we take the measurements and then we evaluate them based on accuracy. And so we calculate the relative percent error, as well as the precision. And so we use this relative standard deviation for that. And then we combine these measurements on the next slide, you'll see, into a measurement error, and we produce a performance grade. And so this is important background information to help interpret where we got the grade from. And then when we have done the analysis over the past number of years, we've published based on this performance grade of the devices. And so on the next slide, you'll see that in year 1 and 2 that we started the program, we went and we purchased a number of devices that are used in Canada. And so we just did some research to see what are Canadians using and what is available in Canada. And we went and purchased those devices. We did produce a report on this. And so in the next slide, you'll see that in year 1, these were the grades from the devices that we did in year 1. And then the next slide, we went and we purchased again another batch of detectors. And these are the grades from year 2. And in that year, we were starting to hear some rumors about some devices that were really not doing well. And so we've been able to do a recall, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but really be able to see the difference between an operating device that is providing a good reading between one that is not. And then the next year, we took both devices again that we had used from year 1 and year 2, and we reran them. So with this, we wanted to measure the consistency of the devices. And so we ran them again in what we call as a 3rd year of the project to see the consistency. All right, and then the next slide. So now in year 4, this time, instead of going and purchasing the devices, we reached out to the manufacturers that we know are operating in Canada, and we invited them to participate in the study. And so this time they shipped devices. And so in each of the preceding 3 years, we purchased 3 of each device. And so we asked them to submit 3 of each of the models that they wanted to participate with. And so these are the devices that we used for year 4. The Airthings provided both the Corentium Wave and the Wave Plus. EchoSense provided the EchoCube Blue, and the Radon RD200. And then also Sunradon, we tested the left. All right, and then on the next slide, these are the grades from our year 4 project. And so you can see that these are based on the measurement errors that the calculation that I talked about earlier. And so and then on the next slide, once we had produced the grades report, and you can find full reports on the website, but we wanted to produce a consumer report. And so what really we wanted, we know that homeowners are trying to make decisions about what to purchase. And so we wanted to give them some information about the fact that we have reviewed these devices and they have passed our review. And so that's the check mark on this report, showing that the devices have passed as part of our review process. But then we also wanted to give them a little bit more information, because we do find that we get a lot of questions from homeowners in purchasing them. So we thought in our consumer report, we wanted to make sure we provided some of those clear information to consumers. Things like, can I use this device standalone, or does it need a smartphone? How long is it measuring? And so as part of the report, the columns answer some of those important questions. When homeowners are testing for radon, these consumer level devices provide fairly instant information to them. And so depending on the device, the readout can be either a 10 or 15 minute readout. It can be an integrated readout over time. It can be a 24-hour or a 7-day, or it may be a longer time period. So really, each of these devices gives a little bit different information to the user, and we wanted them to understand that. We still want people in Canada, homeowners, to be using these devices for the long term. And so we continue to put that message out that people should be testing over the long term. Another important thing to note is that we wanted to differentiate this report from our list of approved detectors from the professional level. And so this was an important feature that we wanted to make sure that this report looks different from the list of devices that we have, both the Alpha Track and the continuous radon monitors, so that people understand that there is a difference between a professional level device and these devices that homeowners are using. So we do not recommend, nor do we allow, in fact, it's part of our code of ethics, that a professional should not be paid to use these consumer level devices. They can certainly sell them and provide them to homeowners, but these are really intended for homeowners themselves to use to test their homes. And really, if a professional is collecting money to be paid as a certified professional, they should be using a professional level device, either passive or the continuous radon monitors. Another key important part of this project was to list the devices that are on recall. So we have been sharing this information out that Health Canada has. We've worked together with them to ensure that these two devices on the bottom, the Air Steward and the Radon Guard, have on recall, because we have tested them and found that they aren't accurately providing, in fact, it's a false low result, which is really dangerous. And so we will continue to check into these devices. And in fact, we've been alerted to another new one on the market that there's some concerns on. So we will continue to measure these types of devices too. And we encourage you to bring them forward to us. They seem to be popping up every once in a while. So if you hear of a new device and you want us to test it, then we encourage you to bring it forward. All right, and then I think is there one more? Yeah, then we'll move forward now. And I'll hand it back to you, Lynn.
Okay, thanks so much, Pam. So just as we are starting here, that we do have representatives from Health Canada here today, I'd like to invite Kelly Bush and her colleagues to join in on this Q&A. And Kelly, we welcome you as the manager of Health Canada's National Radon Outreach and Stakeholder Engagement Program. Do you mind taking a moment just to explain that program and the associated research Health Canada does around radon?
There we go. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. So yeah, my name is Kelly Bush, and I am the manager of the National Radon Outreach and Stakeholder Team here at Health Canada. Health Canada leads a national radon program. We're in our 15th year of the National Radon Program and 10th year of Radon Action Month in November. So fantastic that this webinar is happening during a Radon Action Month. So ultimately, the objective of our program is to reduce the incidence of radon-induced lung cancer in Canada. But there's a number of steps that have to happen before we get to that longer term objective. So our national program is made up not only of outreach, communication, and stakeholder engagement, but also a significant amount of technical operations and research so that what we're communicating is evidence-based. I think I'll leave it at that, because really, given the topic today and the focus around digital radon monitors, and Health Canada as well is hearing from the public when we attend events and we speak to people, that more and more people are using these digital radon monitors. They're being lent out in library programs. So we too want to validate their efficacy and quality. And so we've started doing some work in that area as well. And so I'd like to invite my colleague, Alexander Lemieux, to speak to the work that we're doing in that area. So I'll pass it over to you, Alex.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Kelly, and thanks, Lynn, for the invitation to come and speak today. So yeah, I'm Alex Lemieux. I'm a new member here at our Radon Technical Operations branch. So what I'm going to do is just provide, I guess, a brief overview of our testing program here, and then we'll be sticking around for the question period. So if there's any follow-up, then more than happy to address that. So our laboratories are located at the Radiation Protection Bureau in Ottawa, Ontario. Here we have the capacity to perform all kinds of radiation research. In particular, to the topic that we're discussing today, we have a radon chamber suitable for testing the performance of radon measurement devices, although the setup is a little bit different than the one that Brian went through earlier today. So Kelly mentioned we had performed some limited performance testing in the past at smaller scales, but we've recently been ramping things up and implemented a more comprehensive testing program framework. So similar to what was done by the folks at C-NRPP and the Radiation Safety Institute, we aim to test the performance of these monitors for both the short and long-term periods. So in the context of this testing, short-term is any test that would be less than 90 days, and long-term would be any test that is over 90 days, so 3 months or more in duration. And to test obviously at different proportions of radon to see if their performance changes based on the concentrations. So how this all fits together, this testing is intended to be complementary to all the wonderful work that was presented today. It'll provide data to support existing conclusions and provide some additional information for device performance during long-term testing and at different levels of radon. It'll be able to accommodate any new or updated devices as they enter the marketplace. This is a rapidly growing, I guess, section of the market, so we want to be able to be flexible and adapt to this. And finally, it'll allow us to assess device performance when considering factors such as prolonged use or environmental factors such as, particulate matter in the air. That was something Brian had mentioned earlier. So moving forward, we will stay in contact with all the folks at the Radiation Safety Institute and at C-NRPP. We're also collaborating with some research scientists from Snow Lab in Sudbury to perform some radon measurements deep underground. The results will be shared through a myriad different ways, so websites, academic journals, presented through public webinars, not unlike the one today. So just to summarize, I guess, the goal of this program really is to contribute to the growing body of evidence surrounding detector performance so that members of the public can make informed decisions when they're considering how to go about measuring radon in their homes. It'll also offer insights as to the optimal deployment, use, and interpretation of data from these devices. And I think I'll leave it at that.
Thanks so much, Alexander. So rather than if people are part of the webinars, usually that we kind of have questions that I ask first, but I think with the time today, we'd like to just go to the Q&A from the participants, since we have our guests here and you may not always have access to ask them those types of questions. So I'm going to hop right into the Q&A rather than put forth questions that we may have to draw answers out. So I'm just going to go to the Q&A section. And the first one, Pam, I think Pam, is for you, is where is the report located on the C-NRPP site?
Yeah, so it is right on the homepage. So if you go to the homepage on our C-NRPP website, then you'll see 4 red boxes now. The one at the bottom is called the Consumer Radon Monitor Report. And so you can click on that, and that is the public-facing report. So I'll put a link in the chat to the directly to the PDF. And then when you look at that PDF, you can also find a link to a little bit more detailed report that'll go into the methodology and such, and the grades.
Thank you, Pam. Are there any other questions from people? Because I do have some ready, but if people, if they have questions for Pam, Brian, Kelly, or Alexander, we have about 10 minutes here that we can answer. Otherwise, like I said, I have some, but we'd rather give you guys opportunities. Okay, while we're waiting for, maybe people are typing rather than sit with silence. I'm just wondering, Pam and Kelly, that in October 2022, StatsCan released information from their 2021 Households Environment Survey with respect to radon awareness and testing, which indicated slight increase in the number of Canadians who had heard of radon compared to 2019. From your experience, like Kelly, you had said that your project, I think, was here for 15 years, and Pam, your C-NRPP and Karst and things, they've been around for well over 10 years. In terms of your experience, have you seen growth over time in the knowledge base? Like when you're going out and speaking, do you see some change there? So Kelly, I see you're unmuted, so I'll let you speak first.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say the household environment survey does show slow and steady growth with and that's what you expect. The health risk related to radon is very important, but there's a number of factors that impact risk communication and people actually paying attention to it. Many of the people probably on this call already know this, but just the fact that it's not tangible, invisible to the senses, no bad guy created it. And in particular, you think about the comparison to carbon monoxide, and I just attended a webinar yesterday, actually, on carbon monoxide and the challenges of getting people to take action on it. And but more people are aware of it because of that immediate health risk in some cases where, it's immediate death with prolonged exposure. But with radon, you're exposed to it for a period of time today, and 10, 20, 30 years later, the health risk is, becomes evident to you, and it's devastating, but it's just all of those factors impact awareness and retention, because we often get that when we're out with, speaking to the public, well, this isn't, or someone who's now has a family member or themselves with lung cancer, never smoked, found high levels in their home. They're like, well, you need to do more. Why aren't you talking about this more? And well, we are, but it's hard, and there's just so much information out there generally. But I would say, to answer your question, to come back to that, we attend public events, home shows, and those types of things. And when we started, it was always had not heard of, did not want to know. And I would say the large majority, 80+% of people that come to speak to us now are aware of radon and have questions. A lot of them have tested. Some of them are thinking about mitigating. Some of them are thinking about testing. So, so we're definitely seeing an increase and an increase in testing rates as well. We're tracking that in different ways, but it's slow and steady. I don't know that we're going to all of a sudden see a huge jump. That's why there needs to be an ongoing program. Sorry, Pam, I'll stop now.
Yeah, just
similar things.
Yeah, for sure. Since to add to that, in 2008, when I sort of first got dragged into thinking about radon myself, there was no connection across the country. There was no resources. And in fact, we went to trade shows and was trying to tell people about this. They figured we were trying to sell them snake oil. So yeah, there's definitely low awareness at that point. And then through the years, we've seen a development of the Health Canada program in connection with all the different organizations across the country. We've seen more municipalities, more NGOs, more groups that are aware of it and also sharing out information. But also a big thing is seeing more and more homeowners talk about it. So now anytime I hear of somebody going to a trade show, people are coming to them and saying, I knew about this and I need more information. And so really, I feel like we're at, and as a board, Karst board, we've been talking about the fact that there's growing awareness. Now we need to properly educate people. And so we're really kind of shifting now to make sure people can get access to good information about radon.
That's great. Okay, we got some questions typed up. So Pam, a question for you. What is the financial support for this analysis?
Great. The financial support for the analysis came from Health Canada. So C-NRPP has a contract with Health Canada that helps us for a number of the costs involved with this project.
Okay, and then either Pam or Kelly or maybe Alex can speak to the next one. What is the anticipated lifespan of these digital monitors for homeowners?
Yeah, that's a really important question, and that is why we've sort of maintained a batch of these detectors that will continue to develop. And I know Alex has some insight on that as well.
Yes, thank you, Pam. And actually, this is a great question because it's part of our program that we've just initiated here. So one of the concerns is that as you use these devices over time, it could potentially accumulate radioactive decay products, which could, skew your readings and potentially affect those as well. So that'll definitely, since it's such a new market, there's not a lot of information regarding this available right now, but it is definitely part of our program moving forward. And we have means in place to see how this develops through time and how, if we can add correction factors to these devices, or if there is a certain lifetime after which they should be returned to the manufacturer, or things of the like.
So do manufacturers have approximations now, or is it still a bit of an unknown?
They don't now. So for the professional grade devices, these are calibrated annually. However, for the vast majority of the consumer grade devices, there are no recommendations from the manufacturer for calibration. So this is something we'll continue to monitor going forward and look at as we continue to collect data through our program.
And just Brian in the lab, that they do calibrations of radiation safety monitors of all different types, right? Not just for radon. And the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, for example, with monitoring devices, that they look at a calibration of every 12 months as well. So Brian, I don't know if you want to comment on feelings.
Yeah, that's kind of the standard. And it's really, the idea is to expose the devices to a known reference level or levels to ensure they are operating properly. And that's the primary purpose, because if you've got these instruments and they may seem like they're working, but short of the kind of an annual test, you just don't know for sure. I mean, so that's kind of the purpose of these annual tests, is to confirm performance of these devices.
Yeah. And one last question that's here, and then we'll ask everybody for a comment, because I know you guys have another webinar right after this one. So when doing testing as a certified tester, what objection is there to using a Cortenium Pro as digital as a backup for my Cortenium Pro? All of my monitors are kept in the same room and they are always in close agreement. So is there any need to have my Pro monitor recalibrated every 2 years?
Cool. So as part of the quality assurance requirements for continuous radon monitors, they should be calibrated every year. So Cortenium Pro is a continuous radon monitor. It is not a digital monitor. So it's really important to understand that there is a difference, even though there's some naming crossover. The Cortenium Pro is not part of this study. It's a professional level monitor. And so the question refers to both Cortenium Pros. So I'm not exactly sure what the question is, but they should be calibrated annually. And it is important that a professional understands that their devices are measuring accurately.
And
yeah,
like,
I'm not sure if somebody's suggesting that they should use a homeowner level monitor as a backup to a professional level monitor. And I would say, no, you should not be using a homeowner level monitor to use as a professional services. A homeowner level monitor doesn't have the same features available on it as the professional level monitors does. It cannot be annually calibrated as well. So there's definitely a difference.
Okay. Thank you, Pam. And just as a note, we do have a blog post, recent one from this year, on the importance of calibrating all different types of radiation measurement instruments, not just survey meters or radon monitors, but just thinking about calibration and the importance of that. So it's now 12:40. I know we would like to stay and have more information and stuff, but I do know that Pam, Kelly, and possibly Alex have to get ready for another webinar that's right after. If people do have questions that they would like to have addressed, you can send them to us. I'll have the contact information. And I here, sorry, we're going to go to, sorry, our contact, there it is. Sorry about that. You can send them to info@radiationsafety.ca, and that one of us here at the Institute, if we know the answer right off the top of our head, we'll send it back. But if it's something for Pam, Kelly, or Alex, that I will get in touch with them and then get the answers back to you. So if you do have further questions on the topic or on the broader work that they do, be sure to send it along. Also, when I send out the information, it'll be early next week about the webinar, that we will have links from there about the study and about the work that Health Canada and the StatsCan study and the Canadian Cancer Stats will be there as well. So those will be shared. So I'd really like to thank Pam, Brian, Kelly, and Alexander for being here today. I know it's a short period of time, but it's very important that people are familiar with this. And what we're doing now, we move on to our wellness break. That if and what we have is Charmaine Wong from Jihong Tai Chi and Kijong from in Richmond Hill, Ontario, and she will lead us in Tai Chi because we do whole body wellness, and we hope that you're able to join and take a moment for yourself, and that will help you go on with your afternoon. So again, thank you everyone that was able to be part of the panel. We will now move over to Charmaine.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Okay, yeah, hi, how are you? I haven't seen you for a long time.
It's good to see you again.
Glad
I have
to be
your sound, I think. Is that how we're
Good.
yeah. I'll get
Yeah,
that.
there is another device that I signed in on. So if you can allow me to be a co-host there, then yeah, okay. I think I'm there.
There we go.
I'm going to share the music.
Yeah, I'll be quiet now and let you take over.
Sure. Okay, so I'm so glad to be back here. All right. So if am I spotlighted, or is it I just can't see myself in the screen?
There, I did that now.
Okay, all right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, so I'm glad to be back here. So we haven't seen each other for a long time. So what I intend to do today is to do some exercises for sure. And then we will mostly be reviewing and practicing the things that we have learned before. All right, now, so again, let's get started with standing up with our feet shoulder width apart. Let's do a couple of warm-up exercises. All right. Now, so standing with a good posture, let's interlace our fingers in front of our body and bring the hands up. And then we're gonna stretch upward. And then as we look back down, we're gonna open our arms and sit down. Let's try that again. And up. So as I've mentioned before, all Tai Chi or Qigong movements are done with slow and in a slow and continuous manner. So as we stretch up, we can breathe in. And then as we come down, we breathe out. Let's just do that one more time. Up. Breathe in. Slightly look up and look back to the front. Release your hands and come back down. Okay, all right, now let's move on to the second warm-up exercise. So we're going to open our arms sideways or slightly in a big V shape, slightly forward, and reach up to the top. And as we come back down, we just drop our elbows down and bring the hands back down. Let's do that a few more times. Keep your arms relaxed, but extended. Breathe in, breathe out. Repeat. Open the arms, reach up, breathe in and come down. And let's do that a couple more times. Make sure the elbows are not locked and your arms are not stiffened. And down. Let's try that one last time. Extend. And back down. Okay. All right, just relax for now. Now, when we learn Tai Chi, our lower body strength is very important. So we have learned a couple of stances in our previous sessions. One is called horse stance, and the other one is called a bow stance. So I don't expect you to still remember what they look like. So let's practice those together. First of all, let's get into our horse stance. As you can imagine, a horse stance is like riding on a horse. So first of all, you need to open your feet a little wider. Okay, now we're going to go down squatting a little bit. Now, as if you're going to be sitting on a horse, so make sure that you are not just kneeling on the horse, but you actually can sit on the saddle of the horse. So make sure that I'm going to show you a side view. These joints are bent so that you're going to sit down like that in a squat. All right, so we're going to hold for a little while so that you can also strengthen up the lower body. Now, it requires a little bit of strength in order to hold this posture. Make sure that you are not leaning forward. All right, now we can rise back up to have a quick rest. And let's try that again. Sit down, making sure that you're bending the hip joints, hinging at the hip joints. And here I would also like to clarify one common misunderstanding about Tai Chi is that Tai Chi is all about relaxation. Tai Chi, in order to practice Tai Chi, we need to relax, but yet at the same time, we have to be strong, especially in our posture. So it's a very complex kind of knowledge in Tai Chi as to how we should be relaxing our body. All right, let's get back up. Now let's try to practice our bow stance. What exactly is called a bow stance? It means that we have our 1 foot forward and 1 foot at the back, making sure that we have some space in between the 2 feet. The width between the 2 feet would be about hip width apart. Front foot pointing forward, back foot pointing out about 30 to 45 degrees, and the hip is squared to the front. Now, we don't want to bend our back knee too much, yet at the same time, we don't want to lock that knee either. So we're going to stand with a good straight posture. The weight is mostly on the front leg, about 60 to 70%. The back foot has the remainder of the weight. All right, now let's switch to the other leg. So making sure that we have to have the posture straight. So we like to stand tall and not leaning forward much with your core slightly tucked in. Okay, so those are the horse stance and the bow stance. In our Tai Chi movements, we usually would use either one of those two. And we also have stances that require us to walk backward as well. So for now, let's practice the cloud hands, one of the movements that we had learned before, which is called cloud hands. Now, with a cloud hands movement, we need a horse stance. So we don't have to go very low, but just have the feet shoulder width apart, sit down a little bit. Now let's just practice our hands. So have one of your hand up and the other hand down. Let's say I'm your mirror image. So if you can mirror me, which means that if you can have your right hand higher and your left hand lower, both forming kind of like semicircles, all right? Now let's move towards your right side, the side that you have your hand up. Move the weight there without stepping, all right? And then we switch sides, and then we come back to this side. As we move our weight, we also slightly turn the body, and then we switch hands again, and we move. Now here you do want to have a little bit of a relaxed shoulder, meaning that you don't want to raise your shoulder like this, all right? And then we go. If you feel your legs are already tired, you can stand up a bit. But if you can challenge yourself to stay in a semi-squat for a little longer, then do so. That would be good for our lower body strength. All right, one more time. All right, just stand back up. Now this time we're actually going to move our feet that we have learned before. For cloud hands, we move sideways. All right, so you can follow along. I'm going to start on this side and we're going to move a few steps over to that side, and hopefully you have the space to do so. All right, now let's start sitting down a little bit. Now we're going to that side. So we're going to have this hand as the higher hand. All right, so that would be, if you're doing your mirror image, that would be your left hand. So let's step a little bit of your left foot, and we move our weight to your left side. And then hopefully without standing up, you bring the right foot back and you switch the hands. Then you move your weight to your right foot. And then you free up your left foot so that you can step. At the same time, you also switch the hands. And then we go sideways like that. So Tai Chi movements are done in a slow and controlled manner, which means you have to train the body to be able to control your postures and to control the movements, which means you try to lift the foot and put it back down gently without stumbling. Eventually, hopefully everyone can do that. So for now, it's okay if you have to put the foot down a little bit harder. One last step. And then we're going to go backward to the other side, not backward, but like back to the other side. All right, now take a quick rest, rising up a little bit. Let's go back that way. So squat a little bit. Now this time you have your right hand up, that side, and then you're going to step your right foot and try to move your weight so that you're entirely on your right foot with control. You switch your hands and slowly take your left foot back. And keep doing it that way. The posture is also important. You try to have a vertical posture throughout. So you don't want to be rocking back and forth, right or left. It's about control. And focus. It's another important factor in Tai Chi, focus on your body. All right, okay. Now let's practice the other move that we have learned from our past sessions, and that is the parting while horses mane. So, and I don't assume people to remember what that looks like. that move requires us to have a bow stance, all right? But in terms of the hands, without moving our feet, let's review how the hands look like. So let's again start with me being the mirror image. So let's start with your left side. So your left side being your left hand on top and the right hand at the bottom, holding a ball. So the palms are more or less facing each other. This one facing down, this one facing up. Now we're gonna open those arms diagonally. All right, so that this is like parting wild horse's mane. So like parting the mane of a horse. So let's do it on the other side. Right hand on top of the left hand, holding a ball with the body slightly turned to your right side. With the body turned leading, you're gonna open those arms diagonally again. Let's practice a few more times before we add our footwork. Left side, open. And try to have the arms extended, but not stiffened. All right, so again, your right whole ball, open, extend your arms without them being stiff. All right, let's try that a couple more times. Left whole ball, open. And make sure you're using your waist to lead. Right whole ball, open. Okay, now this time we're going to use the bow stance that we reviewed at the beginning of the session. A bow stance, as you remember, requires us to have one foot forward. Now, so let's start with, I'm just going to, again, face the camera to do that. Let's start with a left hold ball. So as you have a left hold ball, your left toes would become the back foot, which means that it has to be turned slightly open to 30 to 45 degrees. Now, once you have that, then you lift your right foot and place the heel down. And then as you move your weight to open your arms like we just did, you form a bow stance at the bottom and your arms are open diagonally. Okay, let's stick with the same side. All right, so take that foot back and let's do the same side again. Your left hold ball with your left foot turned out. Pick up your right foot, gently put down the heel, and do a parting wild horse's mane. All right, now let's switch to the other side. Let's turn to your right side with the right toe slightly turned. And let's start with the right hold ball, being the right hand on top. Lift your left foot, slowly, gently put the heel down in front. And as we square our body to the front, we open our arms and do a parting wild horse's mane. All right, now let's take that foot back and let's do the same side again. Turn your right toe slightly out. Do your right hold ball with your right hand on top. Gently put down the left heel. And go again. You can check your stance at this point. Does it look like the bow stance that we practiced at the beginning of the session? All right. Now let's alternate the sides this time. Turn your left foot. Do your left hold ball. And step. Check your bow stance. Making sure that the body is now facing the front. All right, if you are slightly slanted, that's not the correct way. You want to square to the front. Let's do it on the other side. Okay, slightly turn the body to the right. Right hold ball to your right, right? Okay, so now put down the left heel, making sure that you're not putting it in front of the other foot, but it's slightly wider. Otherwise, you'll be standing on one line as we finish, okay? So as we square the body, we open our arms, and the body should be squared to the front. All right, now let's do that again. Now this time we're not going to actually do the Tai Chi walk because we may not have time for that. All right, so we're just going to take one step at a time. All right, so left side. Down the heel, again in a controlled manner. Then as you shift weight to the front, you open the arms diagonally. Make sure you're not pushing your hip forward. The front knee should not pass your front toes. All right, let's do it on the other side. Left side, right heel, move. Okay, now let's do that a couple more times, and then we'll do some cool down movements to finish. Right, left side, step, check where you're stepping, and then go. Check your stance. Also make sure you're not swaying your hip. You want to square your hip in all directions. All right, now let's do it on your right side again. Right side. Tai Chi is also about balance. So you want your muscles to be balanced. So you don't want to be swayed or leaning onto one side. So this side, swaying your hip is no good. All right, one last time. Left side, left toe ball. Slowly put down your right heel and parting wild horse's mane. One last time on your right side. Right side, right whole ball. Left heel. Move and open. And feel whether you are balanced on all sides. Okay. All right, it can be pretty tiring if you're not used to this kind of movements, all right? But let's do a cool down exercise before we sit down back on our chairs, all right? So now just open the hands a bit, standing straight, turn the palms up, breathe in, turn the palms back to towards yourself, and then gently put them down and breathe out. Let's do that a couple more times. Again, breathe in, breathe out. Last time, breathe in. Breathe out. Okay. All right, so I hope that energized you a bit. And I'll turn it back to Lynn.
Thanks so much, Charmaine. I'm very glad to have you back. Enjoy that a lot. It helps relax us for the afternoon and gives us something to think about in terms of our core strength. So again, thank you to everyone that was able to stay to the end. And we will begin. This is the first one in our series between now and June. Hopefully we'll have Charmaine back a few times and then we'll get to see you again. So I will be sending out an email as soon as we get the video processed and up and the associated materials online. And there'll be links to Charmaine's studio there as well. So have a good afternoon, everyone. And hopefully we can see you all next time.